بسم الله وأصلي وأسلم على نبينا Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Is the Caliphate an extreme Islamic goal? Written by Islam Siv. This article is from New Civilization magazine. The word extreme only takes on meaning when defined against some benchmark. Extreme. Weather is a serious departure from a normal expected climate. Extremely hot or cold water is defined as such when compared against, say, lukewarm. The word is relative and defined in relation to some norm. Ideas are not different. So the question is the Caliphate an extreme Islamic goal? Islam is the benchmark against which the Caliphate's normality is measured. Is the Caliphate a serious departure from Islam? An outlier belief that represents an extreme from the norm of Islamic orthodoxy. Is of course an altogether different question posed by the West, in which extreme is measured not in relation to Islam, but the West, or liberal secular democracy. That's where on the rare question it is accompanied with some definition. In most cases, extreme is not qualified and used simply to brand Islamic ideas as beyond the pale. The first question, whether the Caliphate is extreme when compared with Islam, this can be answered from a doctrinal, legal, and historical perspective. Historically, the Caliphate dominates some 94% of Islamic history. It formally came to an end in 1924 CE. The first caliph was elected some 1300 years prior in 632 CE. Despite its strengths and weaknesses, peaks and troughs, the historical norm was for Muslims to live with a caliphate. So deeply established was it historically. Some academics believe the current weakness of Muslim nation-state is a consequence of the deep roots and transnational nature of the caliphate and ummah that now challenge post-colonial borders. On the occasion of its termination, confused reign, prayers suspended, people grappled to assume its title from Egypt to the Sharif of Mecca, and movement formed almost immediately to secure its restoration. If the Caliphate represented an extreme, what explains its dominance in Islamic history and deep sense of loss and impact that accompanied its collapse? Legally, the Caliphate represents the executive authority charged with the implementation of the Sharia. Jurists throughout the Islamic history, from as early as Shaybani's Siyar, a treatise on international relations, Abu Yusuf Kitab al-Kharij through Marwadi's al-Hakam al-Sultaniyah to the Multitudes through the centuries, have written extensively on the role, rights, and remit of the Caliphate. The institution of the Caliphate is foundational to Islamic law. While much is made of hudud punishment by the West, the fact this can only be administered by state is often literally missed. Islamic law has always recognized Islam's temporal jurisdiction. Classically, its scope comprises ibadat, personal worships, and muamalat, temporal law. The Sharia, therefore, that not only addresses morality, rituals, personal and family, but comprises a vast body of law relating to state and society. Furthermore, rather than an outlier, classical Islamic law considers the caliphate an obligation on Muslims to ensure it exists. The classical jurist Abu Hanifa, founder of the school of law followed by 70% of Sunni Muslims, described the caliphate as the mother of all Islamic obligations. This may explain ongoing demands for its restoration, this being not just a function of its appeal, but because it presents a core Islamic requirement. Doctrinally, Islamic belief considers the notion of God's sovereignty an essential aspect of Tawheed, the belief in one God, while as the agent of human reasoning attempts to understand the law and apply it. The origin of law is divine and the sole legitimate reference in the solution of dispute and law. Islamic law rests upon this premise and explains its character and scope. Unfortunately for the West, these are not the arguments of Islamists. Each can be verified repeatedly against the classical orthodox books of law and theology, while some may decomprise the Caliphate, consider it too difficult to form immediately, or choose to defy its establishment. These are a function of practical considerations, not a challenge to the requirement of governing according to Islam and the Caliphate. Those who have attempted to challenge this requirement directly have found themselves ostracized from classical Islamic learning, whether by the ulama or the people at large. Examples of such attempts are therefore not many, but Ali Abdul Razak represents one of the more recent and public, although that was a century ago. Even modernists have avoided challenging this core requirement, choosing instead to redefine or reinterpret its form. Dr. Noah, in his book The Fall and Rise of the Islamic State, in chapter What Went Right, describes how many in the Muslim world consider the Islamic State. If one notices that for 1300 years Islam provided the dominant language of politics in the Middle East, then the reimagined Islam looks like the return to the norm. As for the question posed by the West, that needs to be addressed separately, but suffice to say here that as the West describes the Caliphate extreme in relation to Western values, many Muslims describe Western moral, social, and economic values and decay extreme when compared to Islamic values. Clearly, the approach is relative and concludes no more than the obvious fact that Islam and secular liberal democracy are different. It's time we move beyond the labels and assess the substance of each set of claims.